People who've been to Japan or live there, what's the strangest and most amazing thing you've noticed about the country? Watching teachers yell at students until they cry. That or just hitting them. Well, some of the people deserve it, but sometimes it's a little overkill. The yelling would go on for like 15 minutes, even though everyone got the point after the first two. The kid would already be crying a minute in, but the teacher just kept going. I was shocked the first time I saw it, especially the hitting, but I didn't say it was necessarily a bad thing. My opinion is that a good verbal disciplining is necessary, but not at the Japanese teacher level. As for hitting, if it's done out of anger, I don't really like seeing that. Carry cash. They'll take cards, but it's unusual, and I've gotten looks for it. You can access international ATMs at 7-Eleven and the post offices. Just be polite. It gets you a long way, even if you don't know the language well. This is the most surprising to me. I live in New Zealand where everywhere accepts electronic payments. Not always credit cards, but always the local or national bank cards. It's weird hearing that a country so far ahead technologically doesn't use electronic payments almost exclusively. Overly polite people. We took a taxi very late at night after we missed the last train to get home. The total fare was around 20,000 yen, but the driver only took about 16,000 yen, saying he had taken a wrong turn that added an extra 4,000 yen to the bill, and he didn't want to charge us for his mistake. This is an incident during my brief visit in Tokyo. I'm not sure if it's a tradition out there or just my experience. This is what happened. I stayed in Kawasaki and my office was in Shinagawa. While returning from work, I used to take a shortcut in between my way from Kawasaki metro station to my room. The shortcut path was a narrow street where only one car can pass through. It was difficult even for a person and a car passing together. So whenever I'm crossing that street and a car comes from opposite, I used to stand very close to the street wall to allow the car to pass. Looking at me, the driver used to slow down his car to almost a complete stop and pass slowly, while bowing his head until the car has crossed me. This was an amazing experience for me every time. Showing respect to others for littlest of inconveniences cost. Being from India, where people with car will drive like maniacs without little consideration for other, it was a very novel experience and made me think about time. When would this happen in India, if ever? This incident only increased my respect for Japanese people and culture. We could learn a lot of civic sense from Japan. Some strange things I noticed in Japan. School kids in uniform. Everywhere. At all hours, in all parts of the city. Vending machines just out in the open with beer in them. And canned coffee, which, by the way, was the only kind of coffee I ever saw besides what they served at our base canteen. Shrimp the size of lobsters. That breading with black specks were amazing. Mama-san hushed me, because apparently Americans don't eat the best part. I even tried that stuff inside the chest. Tasted like gray goo, whatever it was. Military uniforms that honestly looked like US prison jumpsuits. Ours weren't great either, but not that bad. Every bartender seemed to be a Filipina, hoping to meet a sailor who'd take her to the States. The only Japanese bartenders I saw were behind the counter at a sushi place. Also weird. Cars have the steering wheel and hand controls reversed because they drive on the left, but the pedals were still in the same place as in US car. So I had scheduled for a parcel to be delivered to my room at 12 p.m. I opened the door at 11:55 and the delivery man was standing right in front of the door. When I asked him why he hadn't knocked on my door, he said he was waiting for the clock to strike 12. I had no idea someone could be that humble. And of course punctual. It's futile to even talk about their punctuality as it is simply too amazing to be described in words. During my last trip in Japan, I was at an Indian restaurant having lunch. A man seated next to my table started smoking while eating. As I am averse to the cigar smoke, I asked the waiter and sat down at the corner table, far away from this man. On realizing that his smoking had bothered me, he came up to me and apologized. Well, that's polite and I can fathom it. But when I finished my lunch and went to pay the bill, the waiter told me that the man was very sorry for the inconvenience he might have caused me and had already paid my bill. Words fail to describe what I felt then. Their social order. Japanese people are more obedient with regard to law and order than is apparent in other countries. Does crime exist? Of course it does, but to a lesser extent. Handguns are illegal and there is much less violent crime, most of which is domestic anyway due to personal problems in a family or over arguments about work. Yes, the Yakuza exist, but they pretty much keep them themselves most of the time. Kids can walk safely to school and home again even in the evening. One can feel safe to walk the streets at night. I've never felt safer than I have in Japan. When governments ask that people follow some requests, such as lockdown or wearing masks in the recent COVID-19 pandemic, most people automatically comply. There is a social order that most folks feel compelled to follow. And people will help others if they see someone is in trouble or hurt. After living 23 years here, I do not ever want to leave.
If you have a car and live in an apartment or house that doesn't have a garage, you are required to rent a parking space, which is usually quite far from home. You can't just park on the street in front of your house, even though the area in front of your house is rarely crossed by cars. You also can't park carelessly on the side of the road. Only certain areas can, and certain have a sign. I've got a good one. Kids as young as 6 walking to school all by themselves, tapping their Suicas, a rechargeable card used for public transportation, on gates they can barely see over. I never really know how to feel about it. Sometimes I think Japan is incredible for that level of independence. Other times, I just can't imagine letting my own kid do the same. I don't think I'd ever be able to relax. That's the way it was in America when I was a child. Everyone's just let it go to crap nowadays. Someone once insisted to me that only Japanese people care for old things and repair them instead of throwing them out. Only Japanese people are capable of showing respect to objects, valuing them for their craftsmanship and respecting the expertise that goes into them. Only Japanese people resharpen their knives, and only Japanese people take time to fix things that break. Everyone outside Japan just throws everything away and buys new the moment it's not in peak shape. It gave me a lot to think about while I was walking through my local Don Quixote. One thing I think is pretty unique to Japan, buying an electronic device that only works in Japanese. For pretty much everywhere else in the world, electronics are sold for a global market. It's easier to sell something in Europe that can be sold in all of the FIG-speaking countries with multi-language support. Most things sold in North America at least support Spanish and French, along with English. And it's pretty common for devices made for Asia to support English as a secondary language. However, so many things sold in Japan support only Japanese, and have no language settings whatsoever. People turn in wallets to police stations without stealing everything inside. People turn in nearly everything to police stations without stealing anything inside. It's absolutely amazing. Except umbrellas. People steal those things like crazy, and it drives me nuts. The one thing I thought I could trust in a stand outside of a building is the one thing that will inevitably get taken. It's weird how people return cash but steal so many bikes. It's similar in South Korea too. People leave phones and laptops on cafe tables to go to the washroom, and it's safe. But bikes are commonly stolen even with expensive locks. You know how in Europe we have like 3 types of Kit Kat? Well, in Japan there are literally hundreds. And it's not just about Kit Kat. Every snack brand feels like it's in some kind of flavor war, trying to outdo the others. I'm not even kidding. Even the ice cream scene is insane. I came across flavors like black sesame, red bean, matcha tiramisu, and, wait for it, sweet potato. Yes, I actually found an ice cream that tasted like potato, and somehow it worked. Next time I'm in Japan, I'm doing a full-on tour. Just me, a suitcase, and all the weird sweets I can carry. If you have a story about Japan to share, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Thank you for your support, and see you in the next video.